Hi Design Cutters, my name is Joanna Fallon, I'm a graphic designer, and today we're going to be creating this hand-lettered style inspirational Instagram quote using the letter builder by Barnard and Stefan Kunz. The letter builder comes available for use in 3 different applications. That's Procreate, Illustrator and Photoshop, which is what we're going to be using today for this demo, and it comes with a good set of PDF instructions as well, so it shows you exactly how to install everything for each of those programs. And as per the instructions, I've installed and loaded up my brushes here. The really nice thing about this is, I think, is that you can use them kind of in the style of like a stamp brush, so you can just dot these guides around. And what you can also do is use them like a regular brush, so actually drawing a line. I'm holding down the Shift key just to make sure it's all in a straight line, and that gives you a set of very nice evenly spaced letters. You've also got the choice of having them in different weights. There's light, there's condensed, there's regular, there's bold. They come in italic styles as well, so you've got plenty of variety and choice to help you with whatever style of typography you want to be using and whatever letters you want to be making. The nice thing about this being the brush as well, you can draw the line you want your types to go on. So if you didn't want to have a straight line, you want to do something, like a bouncy format, you just draw a wavy line and it gives you a whole set of guides to build your text around. I'm just going to undo that because I don't quite want that. That's 6 letters, so if you do it slowly and just count along, you can see I've got 6 letters there. For this design, I know that I want to have the first letter a bit bigger. As you can see, these are really easy to tweak as well in terms of size and shape and alignment. Along. For this one, I'm going to use it in the style of a stamp brush, so I've done 1 layer there. And what I'm going to do is duplicate that layer a couple of times. And what I want to do is create an arc for the central letters. So, as I showed before, I'm going to take that one, let's twist it like that. This one just a little bit more. Then what I'm going to do is duplicate those 2 layers, flip horizontally so we've got an accurate reflection. Because a lot of the graphic design work that I do is based around hand lettering, in particular chalkboard writing and chalkboard signage, what I want to do is try this out for a looser hand lettered style. So I've seen lots of examples of this in Procreate, where you get some really beautiful, very sharp, very slick designs, and I can see how the grid works really well to give you very crisp lines and outlines. So what I want to see is how this would work in a much looser style that's hand-drawn and hopefully retaining that feel but keeping some order to the design. So basically I'm not writing all over the place. It actually helps with my spacing, it helps with the structure of the letters and just knowing where things go. So although it looks hand-drawn still, the balance and the layout should be a lot more neater and defined. So let's give this a go. So I'm going to zoom right in there. So I'm going to have to move my little face across the screen a bit so I can get to the layers. There we go. So I've got preloaded this sort of chalk effect background as the backdrop to my work, and let's select a nice white style. So I'm going to select a fairly rough brush for this one using a brush set that I already own, and what I'm going to do is use this and keep my hand as steady as possible. Follow these guides, so you can see already that's making the process a lot easier for me in that it's not quite as wobbly as it would probably normally be. That already looks, I would say, definitely a lot more balanced and even than anything I was trying to draw completely freehand, so that's really useful. Let's repeat the process here. Now here's the big challenge, it's doing the O. Okay, so we've got a nice I'm pretty happy with that. It looks much neater than if I was trying to do it myself, so that's really cool. And what we've encountered here is, I don't know if you can see, but what we want to do is move this O aside a bit just to get the spacing a little bit better. And we also have a slight overlap for our U. So, but we've got loads of space here between the Y. So what we'll do is move that over a little bit. For the final words, what I want to do is, because the other two words are quite blocky and structured, what I wanted to see is how this would work if I wanted to do something that's a bit more, calligraphic and script style. So rather than following the guides exactly as an outline, I'm going to use this as a bit more of a reference point and kind of exactly what they are as guides. So if I want to, so that's good, having the reference curve to follow there and having that. So what's good as well is just seeing, comparing the brush width to the guide references here, so that will help the process hopefully. I'm really happy with that as a guide. That's been really nice in getting just getting the letters to look balanced and getting the really hard part I find with drawing things in a calligraphic style is getting the width, sort of the angles correct. So having those reference points has meant that things like both the S's here, they're going on pretty much the same sort of gradient, and that's what's I always find very hard to do, just doing it by eye, sort of doing it freehand. What I'm doing is just like kind of smoothing out the edges a little bit. Okay, that's been really nice to get the letter shapes pretty neat and much neater than I would have done just doing it on my own. Now that I've got my basic letter forms in place, I'm going to start adding a little bit of extra detail and colouring. And I'm going to add a bit of fill detail to this, and what I've done is brought up these guides again just to help me get a nice straight line in the centre for these details. What I'll do is I'm going to bring, just to help me a little bit here where I'm in the middle of one, bring down the guides just to help keep things neat. But again, because I've got these other reference points, because of the letter builder grid, it's actually relatively easy to position these extra additional guides. It just makes such a massive difference having various reference points. To create a shadow effect on these letters, what I've done is create a new layer behind this fine text. Got a chunky brush and kind of following along the outlines of the letter, just to give it a little bit more interest really. Just going to go in with a slightly smaller brush to neaten up some of those edges. I'm going to create a further drop shadow effect by duplicating that layer, moving it below, setting the blend mode to multiply, and I'll just edge that across a little bit. There we go, you can see I've got that nice extra shadow there, and what I'll do is drop the saturation on that so we don't get that pinkish tinge. I find that when I'm adding flourishes to design, just to kind of fill in a little bit of space, or just feel like it needs a little bit more to tie it together, is to follow the outlines of the shapes that are already in the design. That works pretty well as a sort of basic rule, almost like you're adding shadows to things. Okay, I think we're done. This has been really useful actually, because I've seen the letter builder sort of promoted online and Design Cut store anyway, and I've only really ever seen examples of it used in Procreate, which I don't have. You know, I was always curious as to how maybe I could use it in a more freestyle fashion, so this kind of hand lettered look, which is much more in keeping with my own design style, rather than having sort of the vector super smooth edges. And it's just as applicable. I mean, obviously the finished effect you get is slightly different style, but going back down to, you know, ultimately what the product is a letter builder. It works really well in just using it as a guide to sort of build your letters from, whether they have a more hand-drawn look or they're much tighter. The basic principles of making sure the spacing is right, the angles are parallel to each other, and just having those guides in place gives even your hand-lettered look a much more structured, professional, sleeker look. And you know, there's nowhere would be able to completely freehand, particularly digitally, such well-balanced letters. Particularly with the script lettering as well, actually having those guides for things like the angles was really, really useful, because they're what tends to kind of go a little bit all over the shop when I'm drawing by hand. So really, really useful tool.
Ian Barnard's Letter Builder, now available on the Design Cuts marketplace.